On Friday, Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings." Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go ahead and say it. Cancel culture has gone too far. It's sunk in that they're killing off our show. But they made one mistake. They left me alive. And now for the next 10 months...
It all began like any other late-night show. Colbert in a crisp suit, Trump somewhere angrily tweeting in his bathrobe. But then the punchlines cut deeper, the grin grew sharper, and out of nowhere, Colbert went full savage mode. For nearly 10 straight minutes, it was scorched earth comedy so fierce it could have curled Trump's hairspray. No filters, no holding back, just Colbert dishing out blazing truth, laced with sarcasm and topped with glittering disdain. Trump thought he wanted a war of words, but he showed up with a crayon to a Shakespeare duel.
Anyone even cares about the guy?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
There's a special kind of magic in seeing a self-proclaimed billionaire get completely roasted by a guy whose job is basically telling bedtime jokes to America's insomniacs. And when that guy happens to be Stephen Colbert, you already know Trump's ego is about to get steamrolled flatter than a MAGA hat in a factory press. Because honestly, nothing feels more like poetic justice than a late-night comic serving a president his own spray-tanned backside on a silver platter.
It's just Saturday. On Saturday, Trump surprised the world, announcing that the U.S. launched strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, were we facing an imminent threat? I don't know. On one hand, Iran's slogan isn't "life to America." But it's hard to trust Donald Trump to be the one making these kinds of decisions. It kind of feels like we're all in the back seat while the Uber driver goes on a road rage.
Donald Trump thought he could pick a fight with Colbert, which is basically like a raccoon challenging a flamethrower to a staring contest. And Colbert, flashing that signature grin that says, "I read books and actually know what verbs are," didn't just clap back. He unloaded a comedy haymaker so fiery it could have been served with a side of Tums at Mar-a-Lago's all-you-can-eat buffet of delusion.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. My mustache comes to you with a heavy heart because while I was on vacation, my parent corporation, Paramount, paid Donald Trump a $16 million settlement over his 60 Minutes lawsuit. As someone who has always been a proud employee of this network, I am offended. And I don't know if anything will ever repair my trust.
Trump, whose idea of deep thinking is shouting fake news at the sound of a microwave beep, clearly forgot that Colbert has been weaponizing sarcasm since long before Melania perfected the art of blinking on command. So when Trump stumbled into the arena thinking he could out-clown a man whose full-time career is clowning clowns, he did what he does best: humiliate himself on a national stage.
All this heat may be affecting the president because, and I want to be Sir, I want to be sensitive about this. His skin seems to be falling off. Trump was speaking on the White House lawn earlier this week, and see if you can pinpoint the moment the cameraman got a little distracted.
At the end of 50 days, if we don't have a deal, it's going to be too bad.
Well, get more aggressive.
Yeah, the tariffs are going to go on, and other sanctions go on.
Holy Sephora sample counter!
Let's be real. Trump going after Colbert is like a turkey challenging Gordon Ramsay to a roast-off. One has Michelin stars, the other is just overstuffed with nonsense. The truth is, the only thing Trump has ever successfully roasted is the integrity of American democracy, and maybe his own hair follicles.
A certain showmanship, which is surprising because we heard it had tanks and stuff, but in reality, this is what you got. Of course, the White House claims that 250,000 people attended, so now apparently 250,000 people looks like this. They must be really good at hiding.
So Colbert walked on stage, probably in a sharp suit that didn't look like it was rescued from a 1990s Men's Warehouse clearance fire, and he let it fly. This wasn't just a clapback, it was a full symphony of shade, conducted with the finesse of someone who's actually read the Constitution instead of trying to chew on it. Meanwhile, Trump was throwing yet another tantrum, a meltdown so over the top it made Chernobyl look like a lukewarm bowl of oatmeal. He's out here raging about late-night comedians while pretending he doesn't watch them obsessively at 2 a.m., like a divorced dad refreshing his ex-wife's Instagram. And the irony, Trump's entire persona is basically a late-night parody of a president that somehow slipped out of the writer's room and wandered into the Situation Room. The difference is, Colbert's parody comes with punchlines. Trump's presidency was the punchline. That's not politics, that's natural selection on pause. Or maybe it's like Trump still insisting he won an election he lost by more votes than the number of times he's flipped on windmills. Colbert knows logic has never been Trump's strong suit. His real strong suit has always been denial, and even that's starting to look threadbare.
This settlement is for a nuisance lawsuit Trump filed claiming that 60 Minutes deceptively edited their interview with then-candidate Kamala Harris last fall. Paramount knows they could have easily fought it because, in their own words, the lawsuit was completely without merit. And keep in mind, Paramount produced Transformers: Rise of the Beast. They know completely without merit.
Let's not forget the time Trump tried to buy Greenland, because someone must have told him it had tremendous real estate potential, and he apparently thought it was just a frozen golf course waiting for a Trump-branded resort. Colbert could roast that moment for a decade straight and still have enough material left over for reruns. Meanwhile, while Trump is out here lobbing paper towel rolls of rage at anyone who dares critique him, Colbert dissects the absurdity with surgical precision, and the sass of a Broadway diva settling a grudge. The truth is, Trump can't handle satire. Satire requires self-awareness. It requires recognizing that being president isn't the same as being the loudest guy in the room with a crooked tie and a vendetta against windmills. But Colbert, he thrives on that contradiction. He spins every Trump gaffe into comedy gold, every lie into a monologue, every tantrum into a ratings spike. And Trump, he despises it. Because those aren't assets you can declare bankruptcy on, no matter how many contractors you've stiffed along the way.
There is a tenuous ceasefire between Iran and Israel. What happened was around 6 p.m. last night, Donald Trump dropped this post. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire officially. Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire.
Colbert didn't just respond, he dismantled. Every raised eyebrow, every perfectly timed punchline, every pause sharpened the blow until Trump looked like a walking meme of regret. And let's be real, watching Trump try to go head-to-head with Colbert is like watching a goose challenge a chess grandmaster. Lots of honking, plenty of feathers, and zero strategy. The best part? Trump walked right into it, like he always does. He thinks comedy works the same way as his rallies. Scream loud enough and someone will cheer. But Colbert doesn't need a mob. All it takes is a raised eyebrow, a perfectly dropped line, and suddenly Trump's blinking like he just learned Puerto Rico is part of the United States. And the more Trump spirals, the sharper Colbert gets. He's not just the guy pointing out the emperor has no clothes. He's hosting a full runway show mocking the emperor's spray tan, hairpiece, and inability to spell. Remember when Trump tried to ban TikTok? That was like parody writing itself. The truth is, Trump's whole persona is a living spoof of competence, and Colbert has made it his full-time hobby to broadcast that spoof in HD, every weeknight, to millions of viewers who just want someone to say what they're already thinking. At this point, you have to wonder, is this real life, or are we all just stuck inside a never-ending reality TV blooper reel with no off switch?
No, he's right. The Epstein saga is a total snooze fest. I mean, the most powerful man in the world is blocking information about a cabal of the rich, the famous, and the royal, befriending a con man who regularly flies off in his private plane to his private island or do super illegal sex stuff. Then the con man is arrested. People are afraid he's going to name names, but before he can, he mysteriously dies right after being taken off a suicide watch in a federal prison during the administration of the guy who is blocking the release of the information. Boring.
Every time Trump lashes out, it's like tossing lighter fluid onto Colbert's fire. You can practically hear the CBS producers popping champagne every time Trump rage posts about very unfair late-night losers. Because when the guy who once suggested injecting bleach into humans calls you dangerous, you know you're doing something right. Trump loves to play tough, but his skin is thinner than the ice at a climate change summit. He can't handle comedians, can't handle criticism, and definitely can't handle being the punchline without a room full of sycophants clapping on cue. Meanwhile, Colbert stands there cool and collected, pointing out that the emperor isn't just naked, he's also yelling at a lamppost about voter fraud. And honestly, if that's not Emmy-worthy, what is? Remember Trump's plan for forest fires? Rake the forest. That's right, a man who thought the Earth's lungs could be maintained with a leaf blower. Trump obsesses over image, burying facts under fake tans and fog machines. Colbert, on the other hand, peels back the nonsense layer by layer, like an onion of absurdity that makes you laugh and cry at the same time. Mostly laugh until you cry, or cry because this guy once had nuclear codes. Either way, it drives Trump absolutely insane.
For years, before he was, reelected, and recently, since they all got into office, a bunch of high-ranking people in Trump's administration have kept promising to release the files surrounding Jeffrey Epstein, his mysterious clients, and his suspicious death. But now, suddenly, for reasons that I legally cannot think of, Donald Trump seems desperate to stop us from knowing who Jeffrey Epstein's clients were.
Trump can't silence comedians. Jokes move faster than lawsuits. He can't outwit Colbert either, because that would mean reading something longer than a dinner menu. And he can't even brag about crowd sizes anymore, because Colbert's punchlines rack up more views than Trump's very legal, very cool press conferences. The beauty is, Colbert doesn't need to exaggerate. He just frames the absurdity and lets the audience connect the dots. It's like watching people slowly realize their so-called business mogul hero once tried to buy a hurricane with Sharpie ink and wishful thinking. At this point, Colbert roasts Trump with such surgical precision you'd think he majored in political satire and minored in presidential clown studies. And let's be honest, the material never runs out. Trump's social media app is flopping harder than his casinos, his legal troubles are piling up like expired Trump steaks in a Mar-a-Lago freezer, and yet he keeps charging into battle like a malfunctioning Roomba trying to fight its own reflection. Meanwhile, Colbert just sits back, popcorn in hand, monologue preloaded, ready to spin Trump's latest disaster into comedy carnage. Trump craves control. Colbert thrives on comedy. And let's face it, Trump's idea of clapping back is releasing a press statement that reads like a ransom note scribbled by a sleep-deprived toddler. Colbert's response? 5 minutes of razor-sharp satire delivered with a grin so smug it could power a Tesla.
Unlike the payoffs from ABC and Twitter, Paramount's settlement did not include an apology. Instead, that's good. Instead, the corporation released a statement where they said, "You may take our money, but you will never take our dignity. You may, however, purchase our dignity for the low, low price of $16 million. We need the cash."
The truth is, this was never a fair fight. It's a massacre of dignity, of logic, and of hair gel budgets. Trump can scream all he wants about low ratings and very unfair jokes, but Colbert has already won. Not with volume, but with precision. Not with rage, but with ridicule. Not with rallies, but with roasts. And Trump, bless his overcooked ego, keeps coming back for more. Like a moth to a flame, or a con man to a courtroom. Every time he attacks Colbert, he hands him more ammo, more content, more reasons for us to grab the popcorn and tune in. If Trump really thought he could outmatch a man whose full-time job is turning political absurdity into punchlines, he should stick to what he's best at, losing lawsuits, dodging subpoenas, and mistaking satire for fake news. Because in a war of words, Colbert isn't just playing chess, he's playing 4D sarcasm on a late-night stage. Meanwhile, Trump's still trying to remember how the horse moves. Trump versus Colbert is like a flamingo challenging a wood chipper, bizarre, colorful, and guaranteed to end with feathers everywhere. This is the same man who once stared directly at a solar eclipse with his bare eyes, and he really thought he could outwit the human embodiment of a Harvard degree and a mic drop? Trump's rebuttals sound like expired fortune cookies read by a malfunctioning Furby. Colbert's clapbacks? They land with the elegance of a Shakespearean insult wrapped in a roast beef sandwich.
See, last week, Trump's press secretary said this.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
That would have been perfect for me, because we would have been on vacation next week and I wouldn't have known any of this was happening. Now I'm going to have to cancel my reservation at Sandals Fordo.
Every time Trump rants about nasty late-night guys, Colbert's ratings shoot up like Mar-a-Lago's thermostat during a climate change denial convention. It's honestly a gift. Trump is the only man alive who can lose an argument he started against someone armed with nothing more than a tie clip and a thesaurus. Meanwhile, Colbert's desk might as well be a throne, and his monologues read like royal decrees of comedic doom. Trump could spend the next 5 years rage posting from whatever social media bunker he's hiding in, and Colbert would still spin every typo, tantrum, and tantrum about a typo into comedy gold. This isn't even David versus Goliath. It's Goliath smacking himself in the face with his own club while Colbert narrates the entire disaster in iambic pentameter.